Welcome back to the tailgate. College football week 2. Everybody's talking about who were the big winners after week 1. Coach Prime, Duke, Florida State, Calabrese, Kalinowski, because they swept the board last week in their week 1 start here on the tailgate. Calabrese, are you someone who, college football fans, they got a lot of superstitions. They love their team so much. What do you do when you start to get on a little bit of a heater? You don't shower, don't shave, same clothes. What's the routine?
I like to treat myself a little bit, and this may come as a shock to our listeners or certainly to our viewers, but I like to get another mini helmet to the collection to the chagrin of my wife. I am deep in FCS country now. I already have 133 FBS helmets, so I treated myself. I got a Kennesaw State helmet. Go Owls. They'll be joining the FBS ranks next year, so I'm getting ahead on that.
There could be a lot worse things that you collect and enjoy buying. So you know what? That ain't so bad. It's still very, very weirdo move. As we hear, we bet college football player props and collect helmets. I'm a guy that I kind of do the same thing. I try and buy a shirt or a polo for a team that helped me cash. But when I'm doing well like that, I try to not change a thing. Try to use the same notepad, same pen, same tabs on the computer like that. That's what I go with. So let's see if we can keep it going. Week 2 here. Kick us off, Calabrese.
All right, let's start. I'm feeling a little spicy. Why don't we go to a game that I think is going to be really fun? And speaking of spicy, watch out for tortillas on the field down there in Lubbock. Texas Tech getting off the mat after losing to Wyoming in the opener. They're welcoming in Oregon. And Bucky Irving, phenomenal name, all-timer name, Bucky the Ducky, plus 700, first touchdown scorer. I love this kid. I think he's a home run threat. He had 4 carries in the opener. At 119 yards and 2 touchdowns. And here comes a Texas Tech defense that was not good against the run last year. They finished 91st there. They gave up 18 rushing touchdowns in 2022. And in the opener against Wyoming, 171 yards for the Pokes and 2 scores on the ground. I think this is mispriced pretty significantly for a clear number 1 running back. Will Stein, their offensive coordinator, came from UTSA. And down the stretch last season with the Roadrunners, he just fed the ball to Kavorian Barnes. And I think Bucky Irving is going to be that guy in the Ducks running back room. So to get him at plus 700 instead of, at least by my numbers, should be plus 550. The value is too good to pass up there. So in a game that's one of the marquee matchups the entire week, it'll be on Fox at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to go ahead and play a first touchdown scorer.
I love that game, and I'm so excited for that game. I have no idea what to expect, and I think the people at home will be saying, finally, something, big plus money, first touchdown. Keep talking to me, Calabrese. I don't have to go try to figure out how to spell Ethan Kaliakmanis' name. Just give me the plus money, 7-1, say less. I'm going to go to the SEC. Jayden McGowan, receiver for Vanderbilt, over 50.5 receiving yards. This kid's electric to watch on the return game. Speedy. They play Wake Forest early, sleepy start, 11 a.m. on Saturday morning. Like I said, I like his over. Wake Forest, look, they beat Elon last week. Great. They shut him down. Not necessarily the steel curtain. They're not necessarily the gold standard of defense when I close my eyes. Vanderbilt, I've seen twice as much Vanderbilt as I have the rest of the country because they played in week 0. And McGowan went 6 catches, 72 yards, and then 6 catches, 70 yards. It's 50. 50 is less than 70. Let's keep it going.
Yeah, I agree with your assessment on Wake Forest. They're a top 25 defense in the state of North Carolina. There's some prickly high school D there on Tobacco Road. So, yeah, let's go ahead and fade a Wake Forest defense that's not exactly setting the world on fire. I think this game gets played in the 60s, maybe 70s. So why not attach yourself to, the clear number 1 wide receiver there in Nashville for Vandy? So I like it a lot. I'm going to stay in SEC country, except I don't know if the synergy is working here, but we're wearing palm trees. Let's go down to South Beach because the Aggies are playing the Miami Hurricanes. And last week, the Miami Hurricanes had a phenomenal opener. It was the Battle of Miami. They played Miami of Ohio. They shut them down. However, the number 1 wide receiver for the Redhawks, Gage Larvadane, had 80 receiving yards. This number on Evan Stewart, the number 1 wide receiver for the Aggies, is 66.5. I think that's criminally underpriced for a guy who in the opener against New Mexico had 8 catches, 115 yards, a touchdown, but critically 11 targets just in about 2.5 quarters worth of work. They emptied their bench, and he is clearly Connor Wegman's number 1 guy. And the whole offseason, if you were watching the Action Network and you were following along, Colin Wilson was our Carmen Sandiego. He was everywhere across the country. People were trying to find him. He pops up at SEC Media Days, gets the very first question on the board to Jimbo Fisher, and it was, is Bobby Petrino the play caller? Are we going to see a classic Bobby Petrino offense? In week one, it certainly looks like that. They were taking shots down the field. It did not have Jimbo's fingerprints, which last year, I mean, the offense was totally dysfunctional. So I think this number is still being priced on last year's A&M offense. And I think that's why this is off by so much. I would play this up to 75.5. Let's go over on Evan Stewart out of the SEC.
Hopefully the classic Bobby Petrino offense doesn't end in a classic Bobby Petrino moment, which could mean just about anything that, probably wouldn't be great for Aggie fans, but I'm excited for that game. You tell me overs, I'm interested right away. So I'm excited for that one down in Florida. We move over to Purdue. Deion Burks over 51.5 receiving yards. You were telling me, I said, hey, I'm between this and that. You go, well, he had 10 targets in week one. Okay, the game script against Fresno State last week, yeah, it might have gone a little crazy. It might not have been what Purdue was expecting to play. They play Virginia Tech this week, who's a little more, defensive, strong-minded. But look, you get 10 targets last week, and now your over-under is 51.5. That math to me, if you're anywhere near 10 targets, should be over 51.5. He's clearly the top target there. Give me that.
Bud Foster not walking through that door. Beamer ball is dead in Blacksburg. It's a new era, and I agree. I think that it's primed for an over here, and in a similar way to my SEC play, where books have not adjusted to the style of play that new coaches and play callers want to go with. I think Purdue in this spot is a nice way to play this over. Just so our little podcast here is not just an over fest, just a love fest on somebody's offense. I'll throw in an under. Dorian Singer, USC, 65.5 receiving yards. Now, if you follow the USC beat writers, it was a full-on love affair with this kid in the offseason. He comes in from Arizona. He's on the Blitnikoff watch list. There's these articles being written about how he has instant chemistry with the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, Caleb Williams. That's all great. Here's the thing about USC. Somehow in 2 games, 15 different receivers have caught passes already. 6 have caught receiving touchdowns, yet none of them have more than 6 receptions on the whole year. Like, you tell me how that works. So 65.5 for a guy who's probably going to get 5 or 6 targets in this game. I think you have to play the under. It's a little bit scary because he's somebody who can break the big play. He could have a 45-yard catch, and be more than halfway there right off the bat. But I think if there's any way to play this USC offense, there's too many mouths to feed against a Stanford team that they should blow out. In terms of the implied score, this is going to be a game that they're going to win by 4 touchdowns. So if he gets pulled in the third or fourth quarter and they bring in that clown car of 5-star, wide receivers off the bench in Branch, other names that are just dying to get on the field, I think that's why this should be an under. So just to balance out our card here, I'll go under 65.5. I'd play this all the way down to 60.5 on Singer.
Nice. Well done. I think the game script of they feed all the other mouths. There's no room for him. Up 1 billion points, get off the field. I've seen that quite a few times with USC in the past year and change here. I wanted to just take your temperature on this. Texas, Alabama. I was looking to play, Milroe's over rushing yards. Obviously the dynamic Bama quarterback who, absolutely flies. Looks like he runs a 40 time in sub 3 seconds. You seem to be a little cold on quarterback rushing yards. Is it because the sack yards count? Is that what makes you kind of, stand off a bit?
I would agree. The negative impact of sack yardage can really throw cold water on one of these rushing totals. Also, I know that we went from it's a quarterback controversy, Bama doesn't have a quarterback, to Milroe's the guy, and he's absolutely going to be the guy for 12 games of the regular season. They played Middle Tennessee. As Stuckey pointed out on the Big Bets on Campus podcast, Middle Tennessee stinks. So I kind of take that data and I just throw it out. My only concern here is, do we see any other quarterback for Bama if he has a slow start? Because Saban has been so close to the vest about what he wants to do with his quarterback room throughout the entire fall camp, that I don't take Milroe's performance as absolute gospel that he's going to play every single snap in this game, particularly if they get down and he starts cold. The other side of it, though, is I wouldn't play the under because he's somebody, if he, breaks out of the pocket and makes the spy miss, because Texas is going to spy him this entire game, that could be a 50-yard run right there. You saw it last year. He popped a huge run against Arkansas. You mentioned his speed off of the top. He's somebody that can burn you in a single play. So that's why it's a pass for me here on the game of the week.
I think that's a really good point. I've been sitting there considering the entire time when I looked at the number that Saban would say, I'm done waiting around. I'm here to win. I'm done, playing second fiddle to Georgia in the SEC. Every game, it's balls to the wall. And I was like, he will run him into the ground and not care, because every game, Saban's treating every game now like it's a national championship. So, and I didn't consider, look, if he gets off to a slow start, they still told us it was a 3-horse race up until 5 seconds before the first snap against Middle Tennessee. And that shouldn't change much of your opinion. So I like that. We are moving in to the weekend here. We're back again. The slate gets a lot better this weekend. Super excited about it. You get to bet on a guy named Ducky. So, I mean, Bucky the Ducky. So it's good. I'm excited, Calabrese. Anything else we head out here?
No, I think you basically covered it. This slate is phenomenal. I love, these weird intersectional non-conference games. And it's a good reminder too. It's a super cliche and everybody rolls their eyes, but there's huge improvements from week 1 to week 2, game 1 to game 2 for these teams. So don't be a prisoner of the moment. Feel free, if somebody got off to a slow start, to, count on a bounce back. The positive regression gets thrown around pretty liberally here at the Action Network. Don't be afraid to be a contrarian here in week 2.
Awesome. Yep, I agree. And Calabrese, have a great weekend. Enjoy the games. NFL back as well. And if we were going to talk about Clemson, never mind. We ran out of time. Sorry. Enjoy the weekend, everyone.